The heavy folder of documents slipped from my trembling hands and fell to the floor with a deafening thud, scattering papers across the notary's office like autumn leaves. In the center of the desk lay my father's will, where in cold, unfeeling black letters was written, "All property, including the house, business, and accounts, is transferred to my eldest son, Michael James Turner." Something dark stirred inside me as I stared at those words, a creature awakening after a long slumber. The fluorescent lights overhead seemed to flicker in response, casting unnatural shadows across the room. My name is Nathan Turner, and 5 years ago I abandoned a promising career in Boston to return to my hometown of Millfield, Maine, to care for my father, who had been diagnosed with severe illness. My older brother Michael had been living in California for over a decade by then, building his tech startup and barely finding time for phone calls with our parents, let alone visits. The news of our father's serious illness, progressive Parkinson's with complications, caught me in the midst of work on a major project. I was the lead architect at a successful software company, earned a comfortable salary, and had just signed mortgage documents. My girlfriend Rebecca and I were planning to get married the following spring. My mother's phone call changed everything. "Nathan, your father is very sick. The doctors say he needs constant care. I can't manage alone. Michael says he can't come." The decision wasn't easy, but deep down, I knew I couldn't live with myself if I left my parents to face this nightmare alone. Within 2 weeks, I submitted my resignation, terminated the mortgage agreement, and returned to my parents' house in Millfield. Rebecca didn't understand my decision. "You could hire a nurse? Send money? Why sacrifice your life?" she asked. We broke up a month after I moved. Dad's condition deteriorated rapidly. His once strong body betrayed him day by day. His hands shook so violently he couldn't hold a spoon. His legs refused to obey. His speech gradually became unintelligible. But worst of all were the periodic memory lapses when he recognized neither me nor Mom, and panic consumed him. I found remote work with a small company at a salary 3 times less than my Boston pay, but it allowed me to stay home and care for Dad. Mother, exhausted by years of her husband's illness, began to deteriorate quickly. A year after my return, she suffered a stroke and was gone. Michael flew in for the funeral, stayed for 2 days, and then disappeared again for months. "Business doesn't wait, bro. You understand, right? I'll help with money," he said before leaving. For the first few months, he did send amounts that barely covered medications, but then the transfers became irregular and eventually stopped altogether. I was left alone with my seriously ill father. His condition required expensive medications, special nutrition, periodic hospitalizations. I sold my Boston car, then started selling off possessions. Eventually, I had to take out a loan. But I didn't regret my choice. Dad had given me life, raised me, supported me when I decided to move to Boston, although he needed help with the family business, a small but profitable printing house. Now it was my turn to support him. Despite his illness, in his lucid moments, Dad remained the wise man I had known since childhood. We talked for hours when he felt better. He told stories from his youth, shared business experience, asked about my life. "You know, Nathan," he said one evening as we sat on the porch on a warm summer night, the crickets providing a gentle soundtrack to our conversation, "I've always been proud of you. Michael is shrewd, businesslike, but he doesn't have your heart. You're like me when I was young." That evening he asked me to call his old friend William Thompson, who worked as a notary. The next day, William came to our house with documents. They talked privately in Dad's room for a long time. When the notary was leaving, he firmly shook my hand. Take care of your father, Nathan. He loves you very much." 2 years after that conversation, on a bitter November morning, Dad quietly passed away in his sleep. He was only 65 years old. Michael flew in for the funeral with his wife, a glamorous blonde who didn't hide how much she despised being in this backwater town. It rained with snow on the day of the funeral. The cemetery was flooded with mud. Many people came. Dad was respected in town. Michael didn't let go of his phone even by the grave. I saw him texting someone while the priest was reading prayers. Immediately after the wake, my brother announced they needed to leave. Urgent business. "We'll talk about the inheritance, bro. I'll call you," he tossed out before leaving. A week after the funeral, I received an official notification from the notary's office about the need to appear for the reading of the will. I was sure the formalities would be quickly settled. After all, Dad had made it clear that the printing house and home would remain with me. Over these years, I had essentially become the business manager, handling all details when Dad's condition worsened. But in the notary's office, I was in for a shock. The will, dated 3 months earlier, left everything to Michael. I couldn't believe my eyes. This was impossible. 3 months before his death, Dad could barely get out of bed, hardly recognized me, and certainly couldn't have gone to a notary to draft a new will. I looked at the notary. It wasn't William, but a young man I'd never seen before. "Where is William Thompson?" I asked, my voice hollow. "He retired 2 months ago and moved to his daughter's place in Portland," the notary replied. "I'm handling all his cases." "This must be some mistake," I said, feeling the ground disappearing beneath my feet. "My father couldn't have made this will. He was gravely ill." "Unfortunately, all documents are in order," the notary coldly replied. "The will was certified by my predecessor. It has your father's signature and witnesses." That same day, I called Michael. He ignored my calls for hours, and when he finally answered, his voice was irritated. "What's up, Nathan?" "I have an important meeting in 5 minutes." "The will, Michael. You know Dad couldn't have drafted it. He was too sick." There was a pause on the line. "Listen, bro," Michael finally said, his voice dripping with artificial sympathy that made my skin crawl. "I get it. You're upset. But business is business. Dad always said the printing house should stay in the family. I don't plan to sell it if that's what you're worried about. You can continue working there as manager." "Manager?" A rush of something hot and unfamiliar surged through my veins. "Michael, I spent the last 5 years of my life taking care of Dad and keeping the business afloat, while you couldn't even answer phone calls." "I sent money," Michael's voice hardened. "For the first 6 months, yes. And then? I went into debt to pay for medicines and nurses." "That was your choice, Nathan. I didn't force you to leave Boston. Look, I gotta go. We'll discuss everything when I come next month." He didn't come the next month, or 3 months later. Instead, he sent a power of attorney to his lawyer. 2 weeks later, a new director came to the printing house, Michael's former classmate. I was fired that same day. I couldn't believe my brother was capable of such betrayal. We grew up in the same house, played the same games, fell asleep in adjacent beds. When he was 12 and I was 7, he protected me from high school kids who were demanding money. He got beaten badly then, broken nose, knocked out tooth. Dad was proud of him, called him a real man. What happened to that Michael? When did money become more important to him than family? I tried to call William Thompson, but his phone didn't answer. Through mutual acquaintances, I learned that his daughter lived in a suburb of Portland and decided to go there in person. Spending my last money on a ticket, I found myself on the doorstep of a small house on the outskirts of the city. A middle-aged woman with a tired face opened the door. "You're here to see my father. He's very ill. I'm afraid he won't recognize you." With a heavy heart, I entered a small room where a man who looked little like the energetic William Thompson I knew sat in a chair by the window. Gaunt face, empty gaze. Alzheimer's disease spared no one. And yet, when I spoke and introduced myself as James Turner's son, something flickered in his eyes. "James, James Turner," he mumbled. "Good man. William, do you remember making a will for my father before you left?" He was silent for a long time, and I thought he had forgotten my question when suddenly he said, "Will? Yes, I remember. Everything to Nathan, the younger one. Good boy. Took care of his father." His daughter, standing in the doorway, came closer. "Dad often talked about your family when he was still lucid. He told us how you returned from Boston to care for your father. He greatly respected your father and you. Then why does the will leave everything to my brother Michael? It's dated 3 months before Dad's death." She looked at me with bewilderment. "That can't be. By then, Dad was already here with us. He couldn't have certified any will." William suddenly spoke again, staring somewhere through us. "Michael came, asked about papers, about the seal. I said, 'Everything's in the safe, in the office.'" His words were like a flash of light in a dark room. Had Michael forged the will, stolen forms and the seal from the office before William left? On my way back to Millfield, I thought about what to do next. I could go to court, but what evidence did I have? The words of a seriously ill old man? Against a legally certified document with witness signatures, which, I'm sure, Michael had also bribed or deceived? At home, a notice awaited me that I needed to vacate the house within a month. Michael was selling our family home. I sat on the porch of the house where I spent my childhood, not knowing what to do next. 5 years of life, all savings, career, relationship. Everything had been sacrificed to care for Dad. And this is how it ended. At that moment, I almost hated myself for my naivety, for believing in justice, for not guessing my brother's plans earlier. Perhaps I could have done something if I had been more attentive. That same evening, Anna Wilson called me, the bookkeeper of the printing house who had worked there since Dad's time. "Nathan, I'm so sorry about what happened," she said. "Your father would be proud of you, knowing what you did for him." I listened silently, not knowing how to respond to these words of consolation. "Listen, I shouldn't be doing this," she continued after a pause, "but I think you need to see something. Can you come to the printing house tomorrow at 6 in the evening? Through the service entrance?" The next day, when almost all employees had gone home, Anna led me to her office and locked the door. "Your father left something in case of his death. He said to give it to you if something went wrong with the inheritance." She took an envelope sealed with wax from the safe. "He asked to keep it secret, even from you, until necessary." With a pounding heart, I opened the envelope. Inside was a flash drive and a note written in Dad's shaky hand. "Nathan, if you're reading this, something went wrong. There's evidence on the flash drive. I'm sorry I didn't tell you earlier. I wanted to spare you unnecessary worry. I love you, son." At home, I connected the flash drive to my computer. There was one folder labeled Michael. Inside were dozens of files, screenshots of Michael's correspondence with Dad, where he demanded money for business development in California, audio recordings of their phone conversations, documents about loans that Dad had given to his eldest son, and which he never returned. But the most valuable was a video recorded by Dad shortly before his death. In it, with difficulty pronouncing words, he spoke of his last will, to leave everything to me, who had cared for him during difficult times. He mentioned that an official will had already been drawn up by William Thompson 2 years ago. "Michael knows about my decision," Dad said in the video, his face gaunt, but his eyes clear and determined. "I informed him. He was angry, threatened to contest the will. I fear he might resort to deception. So I'm recording this video as evidence of my true intentions." With these materials, I went to a lawyer. He carefully studied everything and said we had a chance to challenge the fake will, especially given the fact that Notary William Thompson physically could not have certified the document on the specified date, as he was already in Portland. The legal battle lasted almost a year. Michael hired the best lawyers, tried to discredit the video recording, claiming Dad wasn't in his right mind. But the facts were on my side. The decisive factor was the testimony of William's daughter and medical documents confirming that Dad physically could not have gone to a notary on the date indicated in the fake will. I won the case. The court recognized the will, leaving everything to Michael, as forged and restored the validity of the previous, authentic will, according to which the printing house, and all accounts were transferred to me. The day the court announced its decision should have felt like victory. It didn't. It felt hollow. As I watched Michael from across the courtroom, rage twisted his features into something unrecognizable. When our eyes met, I saw nothing of the brother I once knew, only a stranger consumed by hatred. After the hearing, I approached him in the courthouse hallway. "Michael, why? We're family." He looked through me as if I were invisible. "Are you satisfied? Got what you wanted?" "I just wanted justice." "Dad, don't you dare speak about Dad," he interrupted, his voice rising enough to make heads turn. "You were always his favorite. Nathan this, Nathan that. Even when I achieved 100 times more than you ever will, he still only talked about you." The hatred in his eyes made me step back. "That's not true, Michael. He was proud of you. He always spoke of your success." "Hypocrite," he hissed through clenched teeth. "Enjoy your victory. This isn't over." He turned to leave, but something snapped inside me. 5 years of sacrifices, sleepless nights caring for Dad, the betrayal. It all came crashing down in a moment of blind rage. I grabbed his shoulder. "That's it? You forge Dad's will, try to steal everything he built, and just walk away?" He spun around, his fist connecting with my jaw before I could react. The blow sent me staggering backward. "You think you're so righteous," he spat, advancing toward me. "Saint Nathan, the dutiful son. You've always been pathetic." Security guards were moving in our direction, but they weren't fast enough. I lunged at Michael, tackling him to the ground. Years of pent-up frustration erupted as we grappled on the polished courthouse floor. I felt his fist connect with my ribs, but the pain barely registered through the adrenaline. "He trusted you," I shouted, landing a blow that split his lip. "And you couldn't even call him back." It took 3 security guards to pull us apart. Michael's expensive suit was torn, blood trickling from his lip. My eye was already swelling shut. "You're dead to me," he said quietly as they led him away. "You and that worthless business." He left me standing there, security guards restraining my arms, with the bitter realization that I had lost my brother long before this day. 3 days later, I was still nursing my bruises when I heard a car pull up outside the house. Through the window, I saw Michael's rental car. He stepped out, his face still showing evidence of our fight. For a moment, I thought he had come to finish what we started at the courthouse, but he made no move toward the door. Instead, he just stood there, staring at our childhood home like he was seeing it for the first time. I opened the door and stepped onto the porch. "Michael?" He didn't look at me. "I'm not staying." I just came to give you this." He placed a small wooden box on the porch railing, Dad's old cigar box where he kept his most treasured possessions. "Found it in my luggage. Must have taken it by mistake during the funeral." His voice was flat, emotionless. "There's an old watch in there. Dad's grandfather's. He would have wanted you to have it." Before I could respond, he was walking back to his car. "Michael, wait!" He stopped, but didn't turn around. "I'm selling the business in California, moving to Singapore. Don't try to contact me." "It doesn't have to be this way," I said, stepping toward him. He finally turned, and for just a second, I saw something in his eyes that wasn't hatred. Maybe regret, maybe just exhaustion. "Yeah, it does. Take care of yourself, Nathan." He got in his car and drove away. I never saw him again. 3 years have passed since then. The printing house is thriving. I expanded production as Dad dreamed, implemented new technologies. Laughter echoes again in the family home. I married Kate, a teacher from the local school. We had a son whom we named after my father, James. Sometimes I think about Michael. After the trial, he returned to California and cut off all contact. Through mutual acquaintances, I learned that his business there failed. Apparently, things weren't going as well as he tried to show. I don't harbor anger toward him anymore, just sadness, and the understanding that money and property are nothing compared to human relationships. Dad left me much more than material values. He taught me principles, loyalty, responsibility. Showed me that caring for loved ones is not a burden, but a privilege. Every year on the anniversary of his death, I bring white chrysanthemums to his grave, his favorite flowers, and I say, thank you. For life, for lessons, for ensuring that justice prevailed even after his death. And deep down, I still hope that someday Michael will return, not for money or property, but simply as a brother. And I'll be ready to accept him. Because, despite everything, we remain family. And family isn't about wills and bank accounts. It's about bonds that connect us no matter what. Yet sometimes in the dead of night, when the old house creaks and groans with age, I wake with a start, convinced I've heard Michael's voice whispering from the shadows. In those moments, before reason takes hold, I'm gripped by a nameless dread that perhaps this isn't over after all, that some debts can never truly be settled, and some wounds never heal. Dad's antique grandfather clock still stands in the hallway, ticking away the minutes just as it did throughout our childhood. On stormy nights, its pendulum sometimes casts elongated shadows that seem to reach like grasping fingers across the floor. Kate says I should sell it, that it gives her the creeps, but I can't bring myself to part with it. It's one of the last pieces of the past I have left. Last week, I received a strange package postmarked from Singapore. No return address, no note inside. Just a small, worn photograph of Michael and me as children, standing on the very porch where I now sit each evening. Our arms are around each other's shoulders, gap-toothed grins beaming at the camera. I keep it in Dad's wooden cigar box, next to the antique watch that Michael returned. Sometimes I take them both out and wonder if there's still time to repair what's broken, or if some clocks, once stopped, can never truly start again.